Creatures in the Garden. Gabriel sat on a cardboard box in the middle of his new room, surrounded by unfamiliar furniture and boxes of his belongings. He felt sad and alone. This was his family's third move in 2 years, and he was tired of leaving his friends behind and starting over in new places. He missed his old house, his old school, and his old friends. He missed the tree house he built with his dad in the backyard and the park where he used to play with his friends. He didn't like this new house, with its plain white walls and the cold floors. His parents had promised him that this would be the last move, but Gabriel didn't believe them. He thought that they would move again as soon as his dad got a new job or his mom decided that she didn't like the neighbors. "Hey, Gabe, why don't you go outside and explore the neighborhood?" His mom's voice interrupted his thoughts. "I don't want to," Gabriel replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Come on, champ. It's a beautiful day outside, and you might find something you like," his dad said, trying to cheer him up. Gabriel reluctantly got up from the box and walked towards the door. He stepped outside and looked around. The street was quiet, with no kids playing outside. The houses looked similar to his, with small front yards and cars parked on the concrete driveways. He wandered down the street, feeling bored and lonely. He saw a few people walking their dogs, but no one stopped to say hello. Gabriel sighed and was about to head back home when he spotted a gate in the fence of one of the houses. Curiosity got the better of him, and he pushed the gate open. He stepped into a beautiful garden, filled with exotic and colorful flowers he had never seen before. He felt like he had stepped into a different world. Gabriel wandered through the garden, mesmerized by the beauty of the flowers. He saw a bright pink flower that looked like a star, a blue flower with white stripes, and a yellow flower that resembled the sun. He had never seen anything like it before. As he continued to explore, Gabriel's imagination started to take over. He started to imagine that the flowers were not just ordinary plants, but the homes of fantastic creatures. Each flower inspired a new monster with unique abilities, personalities, and quirks. Gabriel spent hours in the garden, creating and playing with imaginary monsters. He laughed and giggled as he brought each monster to life in his mind, giving them names and personalities. For the first time since the move, he felt happy and content. The first creature he created was the bloom hopper, a monster inspired by a delicate pink flower that seemed to dance in the breeze. The bloom hopper was a quick and playful creature that could leap great distances and camouflage itself among other flowers. Tossing a bush of red roses, the thorn devil was created from the thorny bushes and red petals. This fearsome monster was a sneaky and cunning creature that used its sharp thorns to defend itself. It could also create illusions to confuse its enemies, and was known to be able to disappear without a trace. The vine titan was inspired by a massive, winding vine that seemed to stretch on forever. The vine titan was a slow-moving but agile creature that could manipulate plants and vines to its will. It could also use its massive strength to uproot trees and boulders. The moss monarch was born from a soft, green carpet of moss that covered the ground. The moss monarch was a wise and regal creature that could control plants and communicate with them. It could also heal quickly, making it difficult to damage. The rainbow sprite was a creature inspired by a bed of multicolored wildflowers that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. The rainbow sprite was playful and mischievous and could control light and color. It could create dazzling light shows and even create rainbows to distract or confuse its enemies. As the sun began to set, Gabriel realized that he had spent the entire day in the garden. He knew he had to go back home, but he didn't want to leave his new friends behind. With a heavy heart, he said goodbye to the monsters and promised to come back the next day. The next morning, as soon as Gabriel finished his breakfast, he ran outside to the garden. He couldn't wait to see his imaginary friends again and explore the other parts of the garden he hadn't seen yet. As he walked through the garden, he heard a faint sound of laughter. He looked around and saw a little girl his age playing with funny creatures created from stones and leaves and flowers. They looked like the ones he had imagined the day before. "Hi there," she called out. "My name is Penny. Who are you?" "I'm Gabriel," he replied, a little shyly. "Nice to meet you, Gabriel. Do you want to come and play with us?" Gabriel nodded eagerly and walked over to where Penny was playing. She introduced him to the creatures, which she called the Garden Guardians. There were so many different monsters. There were cactus creatures with bubbly eyes, a flying pebble with leafy green wings, and a creature completely covered in mud. Gabriel was amazed. He had never met anyone else who had imagined things like he did. Penny told him that she had been coming to the garden for years, and she had created many creatures and adventures of her own. The two quickly became friends, sharing stories of their imaginary creatures and the adventures they went on. They played hide and seek, climbed trees, and went on a treasure hunt, searching for hidden treasures that they had buried in the garden. As he walked back home, Gabriel felt excited for the first time since the move. He couldn't wait to see what other wonders the garden had in store for him. Maybe this new place wasn't so bad after all.